Hey, what's up? Improvement Warrior. Jason Yun, back with you again. Welcome to the next webinar series in Improvement Warrior University. And today we are starting EMF. So today is part 1. Let me pull it up here and we'll get right into this. Okay, here we go. All right, so EMF, friend and foe. All right, so this is part 1, an introduction to EMF and nnEMF, which is non-native, grounding, and how they affect your life and loved ones. All right, so let's get right into it. And any questions, please post it down below. There's comments section down below. Depending on where you're watching this, Facebook, YouTube, the blog, I will answer all the questions wherever you ask them. And this is a big one because it affects health in many, many ways most people can't even fathom. And it also affects or helps your health in many, many ways, which you can't even fathom, which we'll get into. All right, so getting into it, we're going to start off with your biology and our biology, and how we are all linked as humans and mammals and animals, all this stuff. So biology is the natural science that studies life and living organisms, including their physical structure, chemical processes, molecular interactions, physiological mechanisms, development, and evolution. In school, I hated biology. I hated all sciences, but they never tied it to how it could affect me and change my life. All right, so for all humans and animals to function properly, it must control all the timing of all biologic functions. Our DNA is coded with frequencies of magnetic and electrical fields of Earth into our biology, not just light and dark cycles. Okay, so if you've watched the 13 Pillars webinar, you know circadian biology is the #1 thing for your health. And one of the big things tied to circadian biology is light and dark cycles. So we're supposed to be awake when it's light out, and we're supposed to sleep when it's dark out. And unfortunately, we have crashed that system, so to speak. Okay, so the Schumann Resonance. There is alpha waves in our brain, and they resonate with the same frequency as the Schumann Resonance of Earth, which is 7.83 hertz. So life uses the Schumann Resonance and the alpha wave as a fixed reference point in its nervous system for some reason. It's not just one big, huge coincidence that it's there. Unfortunately, with EMF, and especially non-native EMF and technology, all this stuff, most people are unable to get into the alpha state. And that's a big problem. All right, so here's a study, electrical engineer Roger Applewhite, 2005 study. #1 from it. Electrons move from the earth to the body and vice versa when the body is grounded. We're going to talk big time about grounding here. So the effect is big enough to maintain body at the same negative electrical charge as the earth. That is known as your redox potential. So the electrical charge inside, Spencer, the electrical charge inside of your cell is known as your redox potential. And we want it to be negative. We don't want it to be positive. Okay? Electron flow in the mitochondria will reduce inflammation. Remember, inflammation is the cause of every single disease, every single illness, every single injury on the planet. Okay? Grounding is a mechanism to reduce inflammation by having a constant flow of electrons into the body. Okay? So #2, grounding powerfully reduces EMFs that have an effect on the body. So it basically plugs you in to the earth and plugs you in. So it's basically like your charger. So you charge your phone, you charge any electrical appliance so it will work. It's basically your plug, it's your charge. EMF resonance that is higher than normal frequencies is found in EEGs, EKGs, and EMGs. So all disturb our fast-acting communication system that all life uses. Okay, so this is a picture from Better Earthing, and we'll get into a video that they have here pretty soon. But basically, this is the battery. So if you're connected to the earth, it's charging you, and it's basically your body is absorbing free electrons from the earth. Once inside the body, these free electrons, they act like antioxidants, which provide many, many health benefits, and they provide energy to the body. Okay? Life, fundamentally, is three things. It is electrons, protons, and photons. Photons as in rays from the sun. Okay, so what is grounding? All right, the earth always has a negative charge, and it has an endless supply of free electrons. Because basically there's like thousands and thousands, as we speak, of lightning strikes. That's how the earth mostly gets its free electrons, is through lightning strikes all over the world. So there's an endless supply of those. You have two conductive objects, and they make contact, then the electrons will flow from the object that has more to the object that has less. So the earth flows to you, because you are always going to have less than the earth. So any part of your body, your feet, your hands, your whole body, you can also use grounding rods and a copper wire and put it into any object. Okay? So you are basically like a superconductor. You're an appliance. All right. The colder you are, or the more CT, WHM, which is cold thermogenesis, Wim Hof method, the more you preserve the charge. I don't know if you've seen pictures of me in my cold tub, but that's basically why. It's one of the big reasons that I do that. Okay. And CT, cold thermogenesis, will be a future webinar because it is huge for disease reversal and stoppage and overall health, and basically it's a fountain of youth. Okay, so the colder you are, the more you preserve that charge. Also, the wetter you are, the more you preserve that charge. So I always, whenever in the morning, you usually have a morning dew, so that's especially important to get out and do your grounding then. And we'll get into what grounding, all that stuff is. But the best places to ground, number one, in order, so you got the ocean, you got the sand, where the ocean is just hitting your feet. You've got the sand, you've got grass, you've got concrete, you've got rocks that are grounded to the earth. Okay? And I would even say being on a tree, because the tree is 100% connected into the earth as well. Blacktop is not going to do anything at all. So yeah, don't stand in blacktop. So whenever me and my daughter are outside, she's sometimes on the driveway, and I'll say, don't stand on there. There's dead kitties in there. So just a way to try to get her off that and get her onto the grass and get her into the sidewalk. All right. So the ocean has more free electrons and free ions than land. So if you live near an ocean, it's much better to do the grounding there. Unfortunately, if you're landlocked, then you've got to do what you got to do. I am one of those people who is landlocked. Okay, but if you go on vacation, that's a great place to do it. Most people think they feel better because they're on vacation at the beach. It's not true. It's because you're grounded and you're getting those electrons. So if you live as a regular human, then you are going to consume a constant loss of electrons happening throughout the day. So basically you're a modern what's known as a modern day zoo animal. Okay, so you live indoors, you're not connected to the earth. Okay, you're stuck in your cages. All right, you're stuck in your home, stuck in your car, stuck in your office. Go to a building or go to a business, you're stuck in that building or you're stuck in that business. Okay. The power grid in the United States produces EMFs, which and EMFs, electromagnetic field. I don't think I've covered that in this one yet. But basically, they're vibrating at 60 hertz in the United States. In the UK, in Europe, it is 50 hertz, and that's a bigger problem. You will find in the UK, in Europe, electro-hypersensitivity, EHS, is a lot more common. And the reason is because when your mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell, is spinning, oscillating at 100 hertz, that means you're the ultimate fat burner. You are at 100% health. You are at optimal. Okay? And with the UK and Europe being 50 hertz, that's the second harmonic of 100 hertz, and that's why it's more of an issue. That's why they have more problems with electro-hypersensitivity. We have it here in the United States, but it's not as big a problem as it is over there. So when the mitochondria oscillates at 100 hertz, you're the ultimate fat burner. Doesn't matter what you're eating. You could be eating carbohydrates, and I'll be talking about carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are not always bad. Just depends on the season and respecting your circadian biology when you eat them. Okay? When grounded, the person's body is shielded from the non-native EMFs. Okay, so it's basically like a force field. Okay, so this is the video here. This is basically, it's a 15-minute video, so watch it. It's going to basically go over grounding and benefits and everything you need to know.
I grew up around Native American people, primarily the Cheyenne and the Crow. I remember coming home one day and we were going to go into one of the kids' teepees with his parents, and the mother said, "Take your shoes off, they'll make you sick." It was just strange why she would say they would make you sick. Well, I wouldn't have had a clue at that time.
In simple terms, grounding is literally putting your bare feet on the ground. When you do that, you're in contact with the earth, and Mother Earth is endowed with electrons. And these electrons are literally absorbed through your feet. It's like taking handfuls of antioxidants, but you're getting it through the feet.
Grounding means connecting to the earth to support the specific function of the organs of your body. It supports the body as a whole, but it specifically supports organ systems down to the tissues and the cellular function of the entire body.
In 1960, we invented synthetic materials. The first thing we did was we put synthetic soles on the shoes.
We started wearing sneakers.
So it's the most common sense thing that we are organisms that live and grow and depend entirely on the earth while we're alive. And yet we have completely isolated ourselves from it. We're so disconnected that it becomes this weird thing if we actually slip our shoes off.
95% of people walk insulated on the earth.
This was the single thing that happened that probably caused the proliferation of inflammation-related health disorders far and above anything else.
This is so incredible. This is Nobel Prize material.
I got involved in the cable industry in the early 60s. I first learned the need to ground cable signals as we were developing the industry. When you run a wire into the house, before you can go into the house, you have to ground the cable. I mean, you have miles of wire hanging up there in the air. If there's lightning in the air, it's going to hit the cable. And so what you want to do is create a path to ground for the lightning so that it doesn't enter the house. or blow up the TV or create a fire. One day I was sitting at a computer and the computer kept crashing. I knew it was static electricity, so I put a piece of tape across my desk and grounded it. And I realized in that process that the outlet wasn't grounded, so I fixed it so that I could get rid of the static electricity. And I didn't think too much about it. I walked outdoors and I sat on the bench. This tour bus pulled up, and it looked like they had just been to one of these outlet malls, and white Nike shoes were on sale. It just dawned on me. I asked the question, I said, I wonder if it's possible that humans are, we're no longer naturally grounded. I wonder if these shoes could be interfering with us. So that night, I went to the hardware store and I bought a roll of metal duct tape. And I just taped it across the bed. I threw a wire out the window and I had a ground rod outside. I connected to the ground rod on one side, connected to the metal duct tape that I had laid on the bed. So when I laid down on the duct tape, I was like grounded because it was connected to the earth. I woke up the next morning and I thought, holy cow, there's something going on here, because normally for me to go to sleep, I had to take Advil. So I tried to find out what I could. The internet was hardly anything. This is back in '99. Went down to the University of Arizona into one of their medical libraries, and there was nothing. And in fact, I even tried to find the cause of chronic pain. The cause of MS was unknown. The cause of arthritis, unknown. They didn't know. Nobody knew. So I thought, well, I'll go out to LA. I'll go to UCLA and ask them. They pretty much laughed me off campus. They said, you expect us to believe that somebody's going to put a nail in the ground, tie a wire around somebody's toe, and it's going to make them sleep better? I said, get out of here. Go away. You're nuts. So I ended up having to put together my own study, and we grounded 60 people, and the reports that came in were unbelievable. TMJ disappeared, PMS disappeared, inflammation reduced, pain. Everybody slept better. Found an anesthesiologist in San Diego, and he says, I don't think there's anything to what you're doing. There's got to be an anomaly here, but I'll entertain you. He says, I will prove that you're wrong. Now, we did the study. It's the first study that I did that was a legitimate study where we had quantifiable data. Then we decided, well, we're going to do a big study now. And we ended up attracting scientists, physicists. When they saw the study, everybody said, well, this is really pretty interesting.
I didn't know anything about grounding. I had never heard of it at all, but I became a new mom, and I had my first child, and she had colic, and she cried and cried and cried. First thing I did, being a physician myself, was take her to the pediatrician, and remember distinctly leaving that pediatrician's office with a knot in my stomach, because the first thing they told me is, if it's a baby, let him cry. Literally the only time I noticed that she wasn't in pain, and the only time I could soothe her, was when I was outside and I was barefoot and I had her in my arms. And every time we were outside, she relaxed. I noticed if I did use a stroller, or if she was in a car, she was still in pain and uncomfortable. This is not placebo effect. Like, she had no idea if I was wearing shoes or not. She doesn't know that. I'm holding her either way. And I just slowly started realizing this child can only take a nap and feel comfort is if she was on my skin, held skin to skin, and I was barefoot. She'd be dead asleep, and if I stepped in the house and took both my feet off the ground, she would wake back up and the pain response would come back. And I didn't know what it was called, and I didn't at that time feel comfortable thinking about using it in my conventional medical practice, but I just knew that this is what I'm going to do to help my child. I was working with a mentor of mine, and she recommended that I ground my energy. I didn't know what she meant by ground yourself. So the first thing I did was go home and look it up on the internet. And through doing a search about grounding, I found Clint Over's work and the book about earthing. And I realized that it's a real thing and a real healing modality with tons of medical literature behind it.
I first learned about grounding maybe 12, 13 years ago through one of the trainers for the Tour de France team. in the US, and he was using it with many of their athletes and with surprising results. And I think this surprising best summarizes my response to it because it didn't seem to make sense. I think I became a believer once I started to explore the science.
If you take a microscope and you look at a piece of wood and you go down, 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 all of a sudden there's nothing there. There's molecules, but they're not even connected. What's holding them together? What's the force that's holding everything together? Our body is electrical. This is all electronic equipment. The heart, the lungs, the brain. I mean, this is electrical equipment. It's all electrical. Everything is electrical.
Unbeknownst to us, we live inside a battery. The surface of the Earth is charged negatively, and the ionosphere, which is a layer of the atmosphere about 60 miles up, which is ionized by the sun, meaning that the rays of the sun are so strong that they split the molecules into a positive charge and a negative charge. The negative charge are transferred to the surface of the Earth through lightning mainly, and the positive charge stay 60 miles up. The problem arises when we don't have negative charge. We need grounding just as we need air and we need sunshine.
Stephen Sinatra, who was a cardiologist from back east, who was attending a convention, he sat down with Stephen and told him the story of what I was doing. He said, well, if you're affecting pain, he says, you need to be researching inflammation. You don't have arthritis, you don't have cancer, you don't have all these health disorders. What you have is chronic inflammation.
We have so much inflammation in the body, and it comes out in illnesses. We go to a doctor with all these complaints, but a lot of it is silent inflammation, including my specialty, heart disease. Heart disease is an inflammatory process. So how do we reduce inflammation?
Inflammation is produced by neutrophils, which is a white blood cell. You have an injury, you have a damaged cell. And so these white blood cells come over and they encapsulate the damaged cell and they release reactive oxygen species, which rip electrons from the damaged cell, and that destroys the damaged cell. If there's not enough free electrons there to reduce the remaining radicals, they're going to steal an electron from a healthy cell and in the process damage it. Then the message goes out to the immune system and another neutrophil does the same thing, eliminates that cell, and then you end up with the chain reaction.
ATP is short for adenosine triphosphate. It's the energy currency of the cell. We're bioelectrical beings. That's the currency of our body. That's how it works. That's how we run our biological systems, is by generating this electrical energy that's transferred. And when we connect to the Earth through a conductive surface in some way, there's a transfer of electrons that slowly go into our body. In situations where we are insulating ourselves from this surplus of electrons into our body, we're going to get the absolute opposite. So instead of having low levels of inflammation in a thin blood, we'll have thick blood that's more likely to clot, and our levels of inflammation tend to increase.
You could take anybody who has chronic pain, it doesn't matter who they are, it doesn't matter what's wrong, and ground them, and you're going to have a significant reduction in pain. You're going to stop the oxidation or the inflamed portion. And that stops almost immediately. Then the body can heal and return to normal. And healing generally is improved by 60-70%. If inflammation is the cause of all these health disorders, then I know that not grounding is the cause of the inflammation, because if the body is grounded, you can't have inflammation.
Can we measure the effects reproducibly? The answer to that is yes. We now have 20 studies.
It's like, 21 published studies in the medical literature on earthing and grounding. And this is peer-reviewed stuff. In simple terms, what earthing does is literally, it quenches the fires of inflammation. And if inflammation is the source of all root illnesses, including Alzheimer's disease, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, I mean, the list goes on and on. If you can impact inflammation and, squelch it, kill it, stop it, we're going to be healthier beings. So, why hasn't it caught on in mainstream? I can only say it will.
There's a well-established, traditional, conventional system that relies on expensive intervention. So they'd like to perpetuate that, and they're not too interested in having some competition coming in for a lot less expensive to sort of sabotage their profit levels. Because their goal isn't to help humanity. Their goal is really, as corporations, is increasing profit. The question becomes, how much of an influence has lack of grounding been in the epidemic of disease that we have? Is this grounding a factor?
The light switch went on, and I thought, we're doing things completely backwards here. A typical day for a child is completely ungrounded. Most children wake up sleeping on a bed that was not grounded in a house or a building or on a floor that was insulated from the earth. And then they go immediately into a classroom that's insulated. And even on recess, in the recess period, they go outside and are literally fenced in and are paved with asphalt. And then they have after-school activities, which are either indoors or if they're outdoors, they are literally required to wear protective gear. Then even if they're exercising for 2 hours after school, 100% disconnected from the earth. And then they go home and they go inside and they eat dinner and they do homework all hours of the night, and then they pass out in an ungrounded bed. So that's a 24-hour period of time completely ungrounded, and that goes on day after day after day.
There's a resistance to integrating novel thoughts, and many times new ideas aren't implemented until the people who hold the counter opinion die.
The good thing about grounding is that you don't need a doctor to tell you to do it. You do not need a physician to recommend it to you. You can try this anytime. It is your birthright because you live on the earth.
I ground every day. Hey, I want to be connected to the earth as much as I can.
I would say about 95% of the day I'm grounded, because I believe it's just a no-brainer.
Go outdoors, take your shoes off, stand barefoot on the earth, or sit on the earth, put your feet and your hands on the earth, and you will instantly notice the pain and inflammation begin to drain from your body. I got my life back is probably the most common refrain that I hear. Thank you, I got my life back. I got my life back.
All right, cool. So pretty cool short documentary. I believe it was betterearthing.com. They've got some additional videos and resources you can check out. They've got some products and grounding mats and whatnot. So check that out if you are wanting to get started, but the easiest way is just step outside. All right, so again, to recap, Earth always has an abundance of electrons, and that gives the Earth a negative net charge. And if you are insulated, you cannot get that charge. So if you're constantly wearing shoes, you're standing on wood, vinyl, plastic, flooring, all that stuff. So the Earth gives you a charge that basically goes about 3 feet above your head. And it's basically like an EMF protective cover. It's like a force field. So if EMFs do come in, their net effect is canceled out by electrons within your body as long as you're plugged in, okay? Now this will change depending on the area you're in. So if you're in a highly polluted place, it might not work as well as if you're out somewhere by yourself, okay? So you just always have to be aware of that. So this reason here is one of the big reasons why I try to, when I'm on my phone, I try to do the social media and all my phone stuff outside while I'm grounded. Point number 3, nothing can change your electrical potential except being uncoupled from Earth. So basically you're not plugged in. And the longer you are not plugged in, the more and more you're going to feel that energy drain from you. EMFs will affect you the higher you go up. Okay, so 2nd floor, you're on a skyscraper. Man-made EMFs are more dense the higher you go. So think about cell towers, antennas, power grids, wires. They're all relatively high up in the air. Okay. So think of the sun as a cathode ray, and the light from the sun hits the earth, and the earth is basically the anode. Okay, so earth is the third anode. You got Mercury, you got Venus, then you got earth. And it starts a process of photoacoustics, which is the study of the vibrations induced in matter by light. Okay, so photoacoustics changes the cerebral spinal fluid that surrounds the brain. Okay, so this is a picture of a guy who, the one on the left is non-earthing, and the one on the right, I believe, is after just 20 minutes. So in the video, they mentioned we are electric. Okay, there's a good book by Robert O. Becker called The Body Electric, which he basically explains our bodies are semiconductors. Okay, and definitely our brains, the way our neurons connect with each other, talk to each other, all that stuff, it's an electrical system inside of our bodies. So it's pretty amazing, the electrical potential, especially around the eyes, mouth, all that. Okay, so when the sun hits the earth, millions of electrons are liberated, and this is why humans have sweat glands in the hands and feet. They are collectors of electrons. And the human breast, sweat glands too, so they transfer to the baby. Anywhere you have a sweat gland is a collector of electrons when you're grounded. Okay? One way light is used photoelectrically and photoacoustically to power our body, our cells, and mitochondria. So changes light to sound waves, which is controlled by Earth's magnetic field, the Schumann Resonance, which we talked about at the very beginning, the 7.83 hertz, which is the same as the alpha wave inside the brain. Okay, so the disease crisis that we are seeing in today's world is in some way caused by non-native EMF. It is not genetics, it is the mitochondrial DNA. A lot of people don't know that we have two genomes inside of our body. One is our nuclear, also known as our genetics, or our mitochondrial genome. The mitochondrial genome is the one that, if you want to get healthy, you need to focus on. Because Doug Wallace, who is the leading researcher on mitochondria, has found out that basically in disease presentation, there can be zero genetic changes, nuclear changes. All the changes happen in the mitochondria. Okay. He's also gone on record to say anywhere between 80 to, I think I've heard him say, up to 90% of the diseases out there are in mitochondrial nature, not genetic. And some people, Dr. Jack Cruz, who a lot of my information comes from, it will say it's up to 98, 99% mitochondrial. Because even if you have a truly genetic disease, if you have that, your mitochondria is still messed up. And so fixing your mitochondria can superly help you out and possibly reverse, or the symptoms can be greatly reduced, okay, if we focus on the mitochondria. So basically, you need to become a mitochondriac and focus on fixing your mitochondria. Okay, so your charge is lost inside the inner mitochondrial membrane, and you become more positively charged, which means you have more protons than electrons. At the beginning, I mentioned life is fundamentally protons, electrons, and photons. So if you have some disease, you have too many protons. If you are overweight or obese, you have too many protons, not enough electrons. And we need to change that around, because that's your redox potential. So your redox potential is more positive. The more protons you have, we want it to be more negative. So we want to have more electrons in there. ATP goes down and eventually fails in a positively charged environment. You're unplugged. Your cell phone becomes 0%. Okay? Energy, energy, energy. It's all about energy. You don't have it, you don't have a life. Okay? And eventually it's going to fail. Okay, a lot of modern day zoo animals, they'll try and do things to provide fake energy, but fake energy doesn't last. Okay, coffee, caffeine, drugs, prescriptions, whatever, it doesn't work. Now, food electrons versus Earth's electrons. From food, we can only get about 1/3 of our total energy needs from the food that we eat. And that's if everything is working correctly. Problem is, most people aren't working fully correctly. Okay? So that's why a lot of people will continue to eat foods, and continue to crave foods, especially carbohydrates and sugar and all that stuff, because they think they're putting in, they're getting a kind of an energy high just for the short term, but eventually that fails. Okay? So the other 2/3 comes from the earth. Earthing, you get it just from the sun. Okay? Connecting with nature. Moving on, the suprachiasmatic nucleus. So I have covered this in, I believe, every other webinar, and I will continue to cover it because it is that important. You need to know about it. It is the master clock. It's the grandfather clock. So this SCN, it gets its epigenetic signals through prevailing light and temperature conditions from specialized cells through our retina. Melatonin is present only in darkness. Okay, and it's present for 4 hours, present after you've been in 4 hours of consistent darkness. And that's when all systems are go and ATP levels are all optimal. So artificial light will break the melatonin cycle. Artificial light is the biggest non-native EMF, at least where I live. If you live in a city that has 5G network already, that is the biggest non-native EMF, and that is the biggest problem for you. Okay? When my city gets it, it will become the biggest non-native EMF. Okay? But artificial light will always be an issue. All right? The SCN is your eye clock. It controls every single body system, every single biological system, every single program, including your sleep-wake cycle. So time control is of the utmost importance to have. You must have nanoscopic control needed to make ATP from food, from electrons. If your SCN loses control to tell the time, your brain and your body becomes positively charged. Okay, your redox potential sucks. You become inflamed. You become fat. You have a leaky gut, you get osteoporosis, you get Alzheimer's, you get heart disease, you get diabetes, you get Crohn's disease, you get gluten allergies, you get regular allergies, you get headaches, you get migraines, you get acne, you get shingles. Insert anything into here, and that's what you'll get, okay? So, pretty important. All right, so if you watch the 13 Pillars webinar, you know circadian biology, circadian rhythm is the #1 thing for your health. So the suprachiasmatic nucleus is basically the main controller of that. So I don't know if you can see it, but I'm going to read it here, what it says. So light comes in the morning. It's activated by sunlight, and the melatonin is activated by sunlight in the morning. So activated by sunlight during the daytime, the SCN projects inhibitory information to the PVN, which is the paraventricular nucleus. Then it sends nerve pulses down to the preganglionic sympathetic neurons of the spinal cord, which in turn modulate the activity of the superior cervical ganglia. The latter further project down to the pineal gland, which a lot of people think that that's where melatonin is created and all that stuff. It's just part of it. Okay, so the pineal gland to regulate the secretion of melatonin. Okay, now your circadian rhythm can be disrupted. Exposure to 400 to 500 nanometer light at night. So that's blue light and also green light. So that's an issue. That's why I wear the blue blockers all the time, even during the day. Not receiving light in the morning, okay, will disrupt your circadian rhythm. Jet lag. shift work, okay, or any exposure to light at normal times will disrupt your circadian rhythm. Okay, so part 2 of the SCN. SCN cells are super important to the overall inflammation and leptin resistance in the brain. Okay? Obesity is inflammation of the brain. Lots of other diseases stem from inflammation of the brain. If the brain loses the ability to tell time, then the brain and the body will become positively charged. Again, your redox potential sucks. You have too many protons. You become inflamed. Excuse me. Body, brain, organs form more NF-kappa beta cells when positively charged. When you're leptin resistant, it means you have lots more NF-kappa beta, plus you have alterations in your light-dark cycle, throwing your circadian biology off, and you lose the ability to sense Earth's magnetic field. So your circadian biology is down, down, down. So if you have not watched the leptin webinars, watch the leptin webinars. Especially if you're overweight, have no energy, or have some form of disease, or the starting. Okay. I know that came up quick, but it was basically a book that said it starts with food, and the subtitle said, don't believe a book's cover, it starts with circadian biology. That is where all health starts. If you have too many circadian mismatches, disease will present itself. Now, the healthier you are, the more you can get away with circadian mismatches, but it needs to be every once in a while. It can't be every day. Otherwise, disease will present itself. And the sicker you are, the more you have to respect your circadian biology, the less you can have circadian mismatches. Otherwise, you will never get better. All right, number 3. So many studies have already shown that many mitochondrial diseases come from alterations to light and dark cycle. Okay? However, not many studies have shown the light of day, pun intended, in regards to non-native EMF, due to the fact that our economy is now based on the tech industry, and it is a $1 trillion industry. Okay? So your tech diet going forward is more important than your nutrition. Okay? I always say, well, I don't always say it. Well, I always say it now, but Jack Kruse says your light environment is more important than your food and exercise. Okay? And that's going to include your tech, because there's light, so there's blue light coming from your tech. Okay? So tech irradiates your blood, irradiates you're holding it. It's got blue light coming from it. It affects your gene clocks. It's been discovered that in front of every gene, we have a clock, a peripheral clock, that communicates with the SCN. The SCN has to be faster than the other clocks. Okay? Otherwise, things get thrown off. Okay? It's kind of like GPS in your phone. All right, the phone up in the clock up in the sky, the satellite, needs to be faster than the one on your phone. Otherwise, if you're going to, I don't know, New York, you're going to end up in Boston. If you're headed toward Texas, you're going to end up in Morocco. Okay, so it's an issue. If you're sitting on your phone, lying in bed, and you got your phone on your gut, on your stomach, playing with it, that's going to throw off your gut clocks. Okay, that's a major, major issue. The 4 most important areas of your body is going to be your skin, or your eyes, skin, gut, lungs. Okay, so we got to protect those more than anything. All right, here's a quote from Hippocratic. Illnesses do not come upon us out of the blue. They are developed from small daily sins against nature. When enough sins have accumulated, illnesses will suddenly appear. Okay? And the key word is small. And we have basically been living a life as modern day zoo animals, and we don't even realize what we're doing is not natural. It's not part of nature. Okay? Things we've been doing for decades, things we've been doing for generations. Our grandmother, our mama taught it down, put it down to us, and all that stuff. Okay, so we got another video here. Basically, it's the modern day zoo animal culture put into 160 seconds. So it's pretty powerful. Here we go.
In 160 seconds, you will decide how this story ends. This is a story about us, the indoor generation. A generation that spends 90% of its life indoors. It all started the day we left nature behind. We filled our homes with lovely things and all the stuff we wanted. Our homes became places you would never want to leave. Artificial light replaced daylight, and we built our houses so that nothing could escape. We cooked and showered, breathed and prayed, slept and sweated. But we had closed ourselves in to a point where nothing could get out. So when the air turned bad inside, we tried fixing it with chemicals. And we put in little artificial suns everywhere to make the darkness bearable. That's when things started to happen. Hard to notice in the beginning. Some needed help to sleep, to breathe, to not itch. Many of us even started to feel sad. So we turned on happy lamps to make the sadness go away. Then, scientists discovered that the air inside our homes is up to 5 times more polluted than the air outside. And that the lack of daylight can affect children's learning and increase blood pressure. It turns out that kids' rooms often have the highest concentration of toxicants in the house. In fact, millions of homes are unhealthy to live in. They discovered that living in damp and moldy homes increases the risk of asthma by 40%. And I learned that millions of people like me suffer from asthma and allergies caused by a bad indoor environment. And so, here we are. How the story ends is up to you, because it's not written yet. If you care about the indoor generation, do something. Begin to think and live differently. Let light and fresh air into your life again. Even small changes can make a huge difference for coming generations. Learn how at theindoorgeneration.com.
Pretty powerful video. Indoor generation, check them out. All right, let's finish up here. So how I connect more with nature, especially with earthing, grounding, my goal every day is 50 minutes a day. So I try to do my social media out there, my reading out there, and holding my son, holding my daughter out there, playing with my daughter. So we were playing bubbles earlier today, and I had my son just lying in the grass. Okay. Windows down, even windows down when driving, even in the winter. Okay. The only time the windows aren't really down, I mean, they're just slightly cracked as if it's pouring rain. Okay. If the sun is shining, I will basically roll it even more down, and I will be like a dog with my head always looking outside, trying to get that sun. Windows open while sleeping, even in the winter. Okay. So right now, window right behind me is open. Okay. Let the air in. Let nature in. The sun, nature, it's non-linear. Okay, so linear is basically you get a stimulus and it goes up, 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 up. Okay, nature, you get a small stimulus and it goes, shoots up across the board. Okay, so it's huge. CT, outside. So my cold thermogenesis tub is outside. So that's one of the chances I get to be outside again. Workouts, I do at least part of my workout outside. So I've been doing this, I started September 28th. This was basically all the stuff that I've implemented: grounding, CT, working out outside, and it's basically changed my life. And that's why I'm bringing this information to you, because it's super important. It will change your life as long as you get rid of certain beliefs and get rid of certain dogma and actually become the guinea pig. Okay? Don't just read something or listen to something or watch something, watch this, and say, oh, that doesn't go with what I've been taught. Who cares what you've been taught? What if everything you've been taught is wrong? Okay? You have to figure it out. There's a quote, some scientist or some guy in medical school, he has a quote saying, 50% of what we learned in medical school was wrong. Unfortunately, we don't know which 50% was wrong. And that's why it's super important for you to become a mitochondriac, to become a black swan mitochondriac, and go deeper when you hear something. So if you have questions about this, question me and all that stuff, and I will provide you with the deeper answers. Okay? Because we're sick as a society and it needs to stop. Okay, so I get at least part of my workout outside. No blue light in the home. So my gym downstairs, there's no blue light at all. I use red lights, infrared light. There's a black light up there, but usually there's like a small panel window, and that's what I use. There's no blue light in my regular gym except for the TV. And in my home, the lights are not on. I am basically a psycho when it comes to blue light and keeping them off. Okay? And these things are the things that have changed my life the most. And there I am, skin to skin with my son, helping him get some electrons. All right, so I posted this a while ago, and I will continue to post it. A lot of these memes I will continue to post, but you will be seen as weird if you are healthy in this modern world. Okay? So people see me outside all the time, and I know it freaks a lot of my neighbors out. The one neighbor to my left still has not said one word to any of us. That's weird. Okay? All right, so EMF 2 is coming. It's not going to be the next one. The next one is going to be talking about the blue blockers. Okay, blue blockers, blue light filters on the phone, computer, all that good stuff. Improvement Warrior University, and so that's the URL there. It's not. It may or may not be updated when you go to see it, but basically, this is what you're going to get with Improvement Warrior University. It's, as of recording this, it's not officially open. I will open enrollment periodically throughout the years, or throughout the year. So you get an initial consultation, quarterly consultations. If you need more frequent consults, that's going to be available. There'll be a private Facebook group, unlimited email support. You'll have access to all the webinars, including the Q&A, and it'll be housed inside a membership site. So everything will be there. You're able to download it, listen to it while you're driving, and all of that stuff. Okay, because this shouldn't be the last time you listen to this webinar. Okay, because Les Brown says faith comes by hearing and hearing and hearing, and action comes by hearing and hearing and hearing, or listening and listening and watching and watching and watching, and then doing and doing and doing. Okay, until it becomes a part of your life. All right, private blog posts, videos will be included in there. You'll have quick reference cheat sheets. You'll have access to LBN, the online workouts, and access to Mind Tamer, which is the mental mindset site. accountability homework. And right now, the price is $29.99 a month. And if you're already a client, it's included in your membership. If you're a client of mine for the workout site, or yeah, for Improvement Warrior Fitness, then it's already included. But $29.99, it may go up depending on when you're watching this. I mean, it will definitely go up because right now it's in the very beginning stages. But I'm going to develop it because this information needs to get out. Share this webinar. I appreciate you guys watching, and I appreciate questions. It means you're learning. So first time through, don't do anything. Just watch it, listen. Second time through, maybe take some notes. Third time through, you'll pick up some more stuff. Fourth time through, pick up some more stuff. Fifth time through, pick up some more stuff. Sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, pick up some more stuff. Okay? Keep picking up some more stuff. Keep learning. Keep spinning the wheels. Never stop. All right. Let's get out. Stop share. Okay. So that's it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Have a great day. Stay strong. Stay positive. Be the improvement warrior.